Joining us now to react to the first two nights of debate is friend of the show and author of How to Start a Revolution, Young People and the Future of American Politics, Lauren Duca, welcome back.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Glad to have you here. I've been enjoying your Twitter activity during the debates. And you not only have the book that we want to talk about and your recent op-ed in The Independent, but I want to give you an opportunity, first of all, just take it where you will. What did you think about this first go around?
I mean, I'm honestly really energized. I think that if we look at this conversation and the things that are seen as baseline in terms of immigration and healthcare especially, but across the board, what is possible and kind of the parameters that define that have really radically changed. And the standard that Joe Biden is held to, kind of in keeping with this race and this divide of, do we want big structural change? Do we want to build a new system, or do we want a return to the status quo and the before times? I think that question is increasingly pushing towards a grander overhaul. It's not necessarily a binary question, but more something that is a grander thing that all of the candidates are navigating in a different way. And overall, we see a bigger push toward emphasizing equality, and that's amazing.
And I think Biden's probably the best example of one of those sort of philosophical approaches to this candidacy. He's not the only one, of course. I would say that someone like Delaney probably is in the same sort of camp, Hickenlooper for the most part, and others possibly too. I want to read one line from your recent op-ed. Okay. You said, "America is in the midst of a political awakening moment and it is irreversible. But some of them are trying to reverse it. Can they? They might not succeed at that, but can they succeed in getting elected as that process is going on?"
I think that the biggest, most powerful shift that has happened since the 2016 election is a total new alignment in the way we think about politics. And it happened for me where I was totally on board with the Biden-Obama bromance. And I had rose-colored glasses on, frankly, for Obama's presidency. I think there's been a grander reckoning in terms of what we count as acceptable, extending to neoliberal nonsense, and what counts as exciting at this point is not something that Joe Biden has on offer. John Delaney definitely falls in that camp. Amy Klobuchar is definitely more of a moderate as well. And the way John Delaney puts it is, saving what's working and fixing what's broken. And it's about these little repair jobs on a system that I believe Donald Trump is the symptom of the disease, that is ailing our democracy. And that's kind of the big stance. Do these candidates want to treat him as if he is an anomaly? And I think this awakening moment is about not only reacting to the atrocity of his win, but thinking critically about our role in government that is supposedly by and for the people, and the responsibilities that are required of us in that.
So there were 20 candidates. We've talked about a few. Is there anyone else that you hadn't previously been thinking seriously about, but now you find yourself more interested in? Is there someone who stands out as having done the most to benefit their chances at this point?
I thought Julian Castro was absolutely stunning. The precision with which he centralized the question of criminalization of immigration, making that a specific litmus test, bringing Section 1325 to the fore and not allowing for any ambiguity on that question was absolutely fantastic. I don't know that he's necessarily a front runner as a serious presidential contender, and maybe more of an issue candidate, but that was an extremely, extremely successful use of the debate stage. And I think that he's going to be in the conversation in a much more prominent way. And, meanwhile, Beto looked like he had just been in a car accident. So I'm not really sure. But if there's a Texan now, it's for sure Castro.
Okay, so we're gonna check in on Beto, make sure that he's okay. Some of the damage of a car accident might not manifest for a day or two.
Chocó su carro en la pared.
Did anyone else, in your view at least, do significant damage to their chances? Did anyone else kill their candidacy?
I mean, it's amazing to me that I thought one of the biggest takeaways was how little room there was for this kind of menage of random, mostly older white men to break through, and kind of like when a white man was speaking, it was sort of annoying and distracting in a way that they seemed like a monolith to me. And I've just never had that experience, right? Watching a debate, which was just found fantastic. I don't know if any of them did significant damage. It felt more as if the old white man demographic took a big hit, right? Because none of them, I don't think, really stood out in any amazing way, where you have Elizabeth Warren wearing her heart on her sleeve with every single detail-driven answer. I mean, Kamala Harris's performance last night was absolutely dazzling. And the way that both of them, in addition to Castro, were able to capture public imagination and command the stage, I don't think we saw that from any of the typical frontrunners, and that's really exciting.
So, we had the 20 people on the stage, 10 last night, but there were other people in the room. So I want to get your response to something that I noticed talked about a lot on Twitter. Should Todd be chucked at this point?
What is happening? I know, it's like, are you guys sending us your best people? How is that the best possible moderator we have for this critical moment in American history? This primary is so fundamental, and we have Chuck Todd. It's like Armando Iannucci wrote his dialogue. I mean, the haplessness with which he was moderating is unbelievable. Crystal Liza maybe would have done a worse job. I'm struggling to think of someone.
I haven't watched enough of Veep to get that yet, but I'm gonna watch the rest of the show, come back, and I'll appreciate that joke far more. So let's talk about how to start a revolution. I've read a lot online about the process of writing this book, which seems like it was a fraught experience for you, as I hear most writing is. How do you start a revolution?
You start a revolution by choosing to pursue action in reaction to this moment. So many of the young people that I spoke to, I did hundreds of interviews, had over 350 written testimonials, and spoke to hundreds of young people around the country. The Awakening is available to everyone, but I believe it will be led by young people. And what I see is a shift from passively navigating a broken system to actively seeking to change it. And it hinges on the impossibility of Trump's election, because we were told that there was no way that was going to happen. So it's about the atrocities he's committed. It's about the cruelty towards the marginalized. It's about the unabashed embrace of authoritarianism. But it's also about what we were told and the way we trust our political and media gatekeepers, and the way that is shifting, and the things that we consider possible in terms of the way things are done in a political space, who gets to partake in the political conversation. And I'm an example of that. I am someone who is frequently, dismissed on a basis of youth and gender in a way that my male counterparts would never be, but I'm breaking through and able to maintain an audience in this space. And you have AOC being able to run a campaign and rise to power, and more women entering into Congress than ever before. I mean, you have Caban in Queens just this past week. We're having these major movements on the Richter scale happening. The Parkland students are another huge example of breaking through the idea that gun violence is an inevitability. It's all about moving the needle on what we consider possible and insisting on something more and something different and something better. Because if the world is going to be this excruciating and ugly, then we have an urgency of action to demand something better for ourselves and for the collective. And I think that is incumbent upon all of us. And if we can all show up to raise our voices and use individual action, we can build to the collective power and be part of the process of returning America to the hands of the people, which is also what is on stage at these debates. The question of who has ownership of the money and power that define life in this country. And while I'm not personally a Bernie fan, I do agree with the framing of the 99%. And the reality is that America doesn't have control of our democracy right now. And our voices are statistically non-significant. But in building them to a collective, we have the chance to retain the power of the public good. And I think we have some leaders who are emerging who can continue to set us on that course, and the shift is already underway.
Well, it's obviously an incredibly timely book. It's How to Start a Revolution. And Lauren, as always, thank you for joining us. We always appreciate your perspective.
Thank you so much.
Check out the Damage Report podcast each day, wherever you get your podcasts, whether Pocket Casts or Stitcher or iTunes. You can join me as I give you the news and stories you want, with a range of co-hosts and interview guests jumping in on the fun each day. Again, that's the Damage Report, wherever you get your podcasts. And if you get them at iTunes, don't forget to rate and review. Sometimes I'll read them live on the show.